When you're ready to start creating your design coil vessel, a couple things you're going to do ahead of time. You should have your template made at this point. Keep both of these pieces, and then you also have the step before that where you had the printer paper that you folded in half and cut out. That is also something you're going to hold on to. What you'll do before you start building with the clay is you're going to want to begin sketching out some ideas for the different coil shapes that you want to use and then placement. This is not something that you have to stick 100% of the way to. There will be occasions where you're going to make adjustments and changes, and that's just part of the process. But it doesn't hurt to get some ideas down before you begin. So I'm going to have this available as I'm working to reference as I start to build. Step one is creating the base. So knowing that I could measure here, that is 3 inches, or looking at this was half of my form, right? Half of that. That measured at 1.5, I would just double that up. So again, that's 3 inches in diameter. I'm gonna need to create a base that is that appropriate width. There are a number of ways you can do this. I'm gonna be showing you how to create a base using coils. So it is in your benefit if you work with a larger piece of clay to start. Just again to show you what that looks like, maybe a little bit smaller than a tennis ball or somewhere between a golf ball and tennis ball size amount. I'm going to begin just like I showed you before with rolling coils. You want to kind of squeeze that out to start. And then we're gonna start to roll to get it to be smoother and to get it to be more consistent. As you're working, make sure you keep your workspace clean. So I'm noticing I've got little crumbs and bits of clay from my last work session. I'm gonna be careful to not brush those into the air off the edge of the table, but just gently to the side. And then cleaning up with a wet sponge or paper towel. All right, so I'm standing up, full fluid movements. I'm not pressing too hard, and I'm focusing on areas that are a little bit thicker. I'm being mindful of these areas where it's folding to try and smooth those out. Okay, and I'm already seeing I'm running out of room with this piece of canvas, so I'm holding it, kind of rolling it to the side, because you don't want to be rolling this directly on a tabletop. It will leave clay behind and it could stick. All right, now what we're going to be doing here is I'm going to begin creating the base. It's going to be a spiral. All right, so I'm going to roll this onto itself. It almost looks like a cinnamon roll in a way, right? So there's that, or a snail shell. Now I'm gonna compare it to what I need, and it actually works pretty well. It's a little bit wider. It might be about a 1/2 inch wider than what I want, but that's okay, all right? It doesn't have to be perfect. You're just trying to get it close to the width that you want. If you don't get a long enough coil, so say I stop short here, you can always add on another piece to that. And then what we gotta do here is we need to join this together. So I'm gonna take the popsicle stick, and actually before I do that, I'm gonna kind of guide this together. So I'm gonna gently start to taper that in. I do want this to be round. I don't want it to be lopsided, so I'm gonna do my best to keep it round. You can also kind of roll it around like that. So try that out and just give it a little flattening because it's a bit thick. All right, then we're gonna start to smooth. So you're taking the popsicle stick and I'm dragging across the coils, getting those smooth. So now your base is done. If you still have enough time to start adding your coils, then you will, I'll show you that in the next video, you could continue from this point out. If you are gonna stop after this video and then pick up continuing to work at another time, there are gonna be two things that I need you to do. So you have this masonite board. This is gonna be the board that your coil pot sits on throughout the entirety of this project. One thing I would ask that you do before you place the clay onto this is to take a dry paper towel, and I'm just gonna kind of fold that onto there. Then you can sit your base on top. That's gonna create a barrier so that the moisture from the clay doesn't touch directly onto the masonite. Because what's gonna happen over a number of days with this sitting on the masonite board, you've got moisture and trapped air. There's no airflow, mold's gonna start to grow. So I would even say change this paper towel out every few days so that you don't have mold growing on the bottom of your coil vessel and mold growing on the masonite board. Now, what we're also gonna wanna do is we need to cover this with a wet paper towel. So I'm taking another paper towel, and I don't want it soaking wet, just gonna lightly spray here, and then I'm gonna have that sit over top like that. This will need to go in a separate bag. And just like we did with your pinch pots, you wanna cover it completely and push all the air out. When you're done using this clay, again, be careful that you're tying or twisting this off so you don't have any trapped air in there, and you're keeping this nice and soft and workable. And that's it for creating your base.